game number 4 is about to get underway, so let's head to the Dusty Tunes with your casters.
Thank you so much, Toffees and Avenger. Yes, it is myself, Godspeed, and Matchroom as we head into our favorite map. I think that's no surprise in the 4th game here, as we are going to be ending on Miramar, and this is a pretty southern plane path, but just to also bounce off the desk, yes, Cerberus has had an incredible glow up here and starting to show the team that they were in groups and winners.
And there is something to be said about how difficult it is to navigate what Cerberus is doing, right? They were a very, I guess, mid-game heavy firefight squad that's now having to shift into a more passive, late-game centered strategy, and that is taking what you're best at and then realizing how to navigate it in an entirely different meta. And one of the reasons why internationals can be so hard, because you're getting that mix-up of different styles, you might have to change your entire approach to the game. And I won't say that Cerberus is doing that, but they're having to make some pretty hefty modifications in playstyle.
And a big symptom of that was yesterday's circles, right? They were finding themselves, which normally we see them on the edge or center holding off multiple teams. The circles yesterday were not allowing them to do that. They were rough, you know, to give Cerberus a little bit of leeway there. They were really rough, not only for them, but as well as a lot of the other teams. But the fact that they're now able to readjust, as you said, kind of change their playstyle, maybe be a little more passive than they were in groups as well as winners, and now just start to come back and build that point total towards the top once again, because we know that that team can make it to the top.
The best way I can describe it to people that are like watching at home that haven't played at this level is if you've ever had that job and then you get a new boss, and that boss, like you've had this job for like 2 years, and that boss goes, hey, I want you to change how this thing, let me just change this because I want to try doing it my way for a second, and you're like, and you're having to figure out this whole new meta and how frustrating it can be. That's what's going on with teams like Cerberus. It's not like they're having to change what they do, they're just having to change their approach into how they do it, and sometimes it can just be a bit of a learning curve and can be slightly frustrating. So well done on them, because you don't get much time to do it on the international
100%. And someone who's been fortunate enough to be in that position before at an international event where we've done well, we've then struggled and had to make those adjustments. The hardest part about that as a former player is to also know that other teams are also making those adjustments, right? So you have to navigate the field, and you also have to make sure that first and foremost, your communication with your teammates is on point, because if it's not in these lobbies, you will absolutely be punished for it.
See the T5, who is managing to navigate the metas quite well right now, do find themselves right on the edge of the zone. They're going to be down in that Porto area. The circle did pop, leans into Los Leones. Pretty similar to what we've been seeing with a lot of our Miramars, let's be honest. I mean, Los Leones, Chumacera, Hillsides, a bit of those Impala Fields. You guys at this point should be pretty familiar, right?
Well, here's the problem, Matt. Everyone is familiar with the circles, but what they're not familiar with is some of the shifts that we've been... I say some, but it's pretty much all the shifts at this point that we've seen every single game. When we look at a circle like this, something we've seen time and time again, the outcome, especially here, has been drastically different than what we're used to.
I mean, we've got most of our teams inside the zone just due to how southern that plane path was.
It was, yeah, very
so really, it's just going to be about regrouping, figuring out the territories that you want to control the most. We have talked about it before, that the area to the southeast, that's going to have a lot more playable terrain for the teams to kind of work around, just due to how that whole area functions. But also the big vision points that are going to be around Los Leones itself into the north. But we also still have Chumacera and the southern Chumacera Hills in play, as well as Picado itself. So there are a lot of different variables to look at in this.
And the fortunate thing about what you're saying as well is everyone, because of the plane path, was able to drop somewhere within this circle, right? They're going to be somewhere comfortable. Rotations, as you said, in the southwest, where we see Sonics have a pretty much free rotation in just right to the east of Monte. We'll be able to come in. We also do see Gen G actually making that southern rotation because Pio was already so far in there and, again, created so much space. This is what Gen G loves to do, and so they're going to be able to rotate in just fine. Even a team like Forest, right, who's going to be coming in behind Sonic, should be able to find something, whether it's on the west side of Chuma or just coming in right there where Sonics is finding the window right to the east of Monty. So all the teams will be able to at least find a foothold into the circle. It's what they're going to be able to do after this shift that I'm going to be curious about.
Yeah, this is a game 2 style situation, or circle 2 style situation, where everybody is content for now, but is just waiting with bated breath for what's going to be happening in the next section, as they are aware that this circle, not impactful. what's going to be happening next is even 17 Gaming already leaving Picado. They're already aiming a bit more to the south. They're getting their eyes set on the hillsides in between Los Leones and Picado itself, getting some good vision. No big surprises out of that one, as that gives them a lot of rotation options, and that is something that we need to be watching at this stage, given the way that circles have just been hard shifting all over the place. Almost all of these teams are trying to make sure that, yes, they get in a fortified position now, but also have a point that they can path either one of the major directions away from they're presently at in the safest way that they can.
That's a very important point. A lot of the teams, yes, they might find a circle or a position in the circle that's going to be advantageous for the time being, but they really need to find a position that they can rotate out of. And that's sometimes a big asset to a team, of being able to recognize that, where we see a detriment to quite a few teams as well, not thinking ahead and putting themselves in a spot where, hey, it's great now, but what are we going to do when it shifts? And that's when we see a lot of teams actually fall on the edge. I also really like 17 split, because at this point they're looking for rotations coming in, or maybe catching a team off guard with that split across the road just to the south of Picado.
Navi playing the northern part of kind of what's going on in the Los Leones cascade of teams that are all around it. Not too many teams that have committed into Los Leones itself. Even Falcons that kind of loot there have been playing the outskirts. T5, though, say, you know, it's the center of the circle. Where does T5 go? The center of the circle.
The center of circle. It's worked so much for them. Why change it up at this point? And they're so good at finding it, whether it's through an emergency airdrop, an early rotation, or just getting gifted the center. They always, as you said, seem to find their way dead center of the circles. I'm also now looking at Twisted Minds up to the northwest. We see Navi here just to the east of Picado, so they're going to have a nice position to play with some pretty good terrain as well.
I want to point out that it looks like Question Mark is doing a very long wrap around. They've already got their eyes set more on that Azahar positioning. They might be trying to come in more along Power Grid, where we do see Twisted Mind still playing from. 4 Angry Men who goes into Hacienda still going to be over there. Forest also going to be coming in around that Chumacera line, so they should be pretty safe for now, as Sonic's going to be closest team, and they're kind of halfway to Los Leones, if you think about it.
Yep, and this is, I mean, this is what we thought Forest was going to do, just coming in on the west side, just where Chuma is. Again, rotations in Circle 1, not going to be that big of a hiccup for these teams. Even a team like Question Mark, right? Super far to the northeast. We've seen QM come in time and time again, very late. It's actually worked out for them. In this circle, it also may work out for them, especially if the shift goes somewhere where they can see and rotate before some of the other teams are able to react, especially the ones that are trapped in the center.
And the teams that are really good at navigating these very awkward rotations are often the ones that kind of get hit with the, oh, they just snake their way into the circle kind of situation, comments that we can see happen online. That's not really the case. It's more the fact that they're already planning in advance to make their move. So while everybody's in the thick of the firefighting, they're not picking up the kills.
In the middle.
They're getting themselves into a position where they can go for the later stages of the game. And it's very hard, because a lot of the times it happens so fast, it's a blink and you miss it style moment.
And that's generally what comes with playing Edge, right? You're constantly just rotating around, whether you're going from east to south or south to west or whatever. That is why a lot of teams prefer to play Edge at times, because they're able to react to the circle in a much quicker fashion than teams, as we're talking about, stuck in the middle. And so QM, one of those teams that have been able to really exploit that and find their way and find those windows of opportunity to capitalize on some of these really disgusting hardships.
I mean, and that's what's so interesting in a more centered meta that we're kind of watching at this event. It hit on exactly what you were talking about. If you're playing on the edge, you're not surrounded, so you can rotate and go where you want. If you're playing center and it moves away from you, you just got thousands of teams around you, it feels like, and you're having to try to navigate what is just going to be a death trap. The fact that so many of our teams are managing to make it into these stages of the game, specifically whenever we're looking at 5 and 6 in those circles, have been very, very cruel. Think about the fact the last game we didn't even really get to Circle 9. And that's nuts on the international stage.
No, yeah, the fact that we didn't get to Circle 9 is pretty rare, especially with that circle and how compacted it was, and with how many teams were left alive before we went into shift number 6 and 7. And so, yeah, that can be the benefit of playing Edge when, you're right, there's so many teams opting to go center.
Problem is, if you have to go center, man, there's just so many people
sometimes
shooting
you don't
at
have a choice either.
Yeah, you just, sometimes you got to make the best of a bad situation and trying to read that one through.
But
and that's
look at this position QM has found themselves in.
They're navigating right through Bandita. This is exactly what we're talking about. They know where the train is. They know where the pathing is. They're just pushing right through onto it. They are going to end up in a Navi sightline here in just a bit, but this is also a squad that's very, very careful in their approaches. So yeah, see, already shifting away from it, realizing, okay, this hill's here. Nobody's shooting at us. prime position and really good real estate.
And look at the way they're rotating as well. If you're watching at home and you're curious about how they're able to get in these positions, look at the way that they're leapfrogging off of Bestalok and Aduzi, right? Leaving an anchor, watching ahead, looking for other teams as two members go forward. And this is really what you should be doing, kind of finding those points where you can stop, scout, move forward, leapfrog, and then find a position that you can play rather than just blind sending.
I do also want to point out, as is tried and true tradition at this stage, the Northwest belongs to Twisted Minds, as they've got a very wide bit of control. If this circle goes Northwest, boy, everything kind of belongs to them, and I dare you to come approach it.
And Batulins and High Ground on Miramar is...
What?
It would actually be
I've never seen this
weird
before.
if we didn't see that. Whether it's a mountain bike or it's a two-seater. Oh, he's got a lot of air.
Oh, well, the circle says no. We're just going to go ahead and go down to the southwest. Still keeps in some of Los Leones, though.
It does keep Los Leones. This area is actually very fun to fight in, Matt. There's so many hills, especially if you look at the split that Genji is in between EJ and PO. Lots of different elevations. There are some fields, though, that you don't want to rotate in, but quite a bit to play as a lot of these teams now coming in from the north.
It is very fun to play if you're at the top of the hillsides, right? As it is going to be Tyloo making their approach, trying to see if maybe they can pick off a bit more on this. They're going to have to make their rotation. They're going to have Na'Vi that's just going to be to the west of them. A couple of teams now coming down more into that Los Leones line. That's going to be the Expendables going to be crashing into this one. Potentially, if you mind Game PT as well. Cerberus look like they're going to be going for a longer wrap. Na'Vi just... no big, you don't have to make a big movement here, and that's just kind of what they're committed into.
And I do actually also want to bounce off something that Desk was saying as well with GP. I mean, they did just lose Bopsanghead, right? But all the other members have really started to step up. Obviously, we called Bopsanghead the janitor of Game PT because he's been able to clean up a lot of the mistakes the team were making. But even like Hush, able to get, I think it was 5 kills in the last game. They're all starting to step up, and the adaptations that this team has been able to make in order to even make it in the grand finals and now find themselves in 8th place, they've been very impressive. I've actually really enjoyed watching this team.
Fighting in Los Leones breaking out is, there you go. They're going to be bumping into the Expendables. Got to be careful with it, though. 777 and Delwyn the last 2 up. But Daku just doing a good job on realizing the fact that they have an opportunity, exploiting it, making sure to, also getting some cool tricks out of the car.
Yeah, they did a little kickflip there as Delwyn will find a nade onto Daku, but pushing this is going to be difficult. Never mind, Delwyn's actually right on the bottom side of this 5-story, and he's looking to push right in and get this cleanup.
Sometimes you just got to make the play, right? That flash is going to land perfectly. Reposition on the opposing side, though. Delwyn going to read this. He's got a teammate on his back. He's just trying to run. He's got the peek back. Hits and gets the knock onto him. Oh, my God. The expendable 777 just trying to find a way and make all of this go work for him.
That nade from 777 was kind of an advantage, but a detriment there as he's going to take out Delwyn, but he will get the 2 members there from Game PT, so that was costly.
T5 wanting to control and say, no, we came to Los Leones first. You can't have it, Na'Vi. 1 member up, and Mel, and realizing that this is bad. He's got to retreat. T5 not going to relent off of it. They want to make sure that they get these flushes if possible. And through that, Mel is just having to retreat. I think that maybe he might be, I don't even think that he can go for Uba at this stage. This is a very aggressive push coming out from T5, and I love it. Yeah,
T5, again, they seem to know exactly when to put their foot on the gas and when to kind of back off and break, but Na'Vi this is looking like the same Na'Vi that was struggling early in winner's bracket when they just kept losing members early, and this is just Mel up once more.
How far is T5 going to push this? And got to be careful. Looks like they're just going to continue to go for the flushes, make sure that nothing crazy is going to happen, pick up the points as they can. Let's not forget about good old 777 that's also going to be sneaking in pretty similar. He hears the firefight, thinking maybe he can pick up a kill of his own. Forest, kind of mirroring what we saw going on with Twisted Minds to the north, down in the south, is they've got themselves a very wide split. Stappy, no surprise, being the point man that's going to be closest to Genji at the time.
And Genji finally giving up a little bit of control on how much of a split they had. And this actually, Circle, is a big problem because there's really not that much to play in the center. You do see where Sonics currently holds a position, but around them is pretty much open as Twisted Mind still has a vast amount of control on the west side.
Tyloo and FaZe in an awkward standoff right now, right on the, I guess, suburbs of Los Leones, if you want to say it that way. Tyloo also kind of, they're trying to regroup back a bit more. Cerberus does hear this, and they're going to just bypass it, uses an opportunity to try to leapfrog inside the circle. Firefight's going to be close up and in the face. FaZe just trying to go for the spray, and it does here. It gets the shots off. As that was just kind of an offhand. No, I'm not going to let you do that.
Just kind of sweeping around in the smoke. He happens to catch a member there. I think it was Jiao Yang, of Tyloo. So they're going to back off. They'll have 3 up, but the damage has also been done a little bit to FaZe as they will lose 1 in Jeems.
777 finding himself now in a bad spot, having to deal with that T5 situation that we were looking at beforehand. I want to point out as well, Mel did manage to get away. Can 777 make some more happen? Almost does it, but no, at the bong with, I believe, 1 HP. Going to be looking back. Now getting control over this. Los Leones fight's pretty much done, as that was kind of the tail end of everything.
Yeah, there's actually nobody in Leones left. There's just the bottom side there. We see Mel, and then Falcon's actually taking quite a considerable amount of shots over towards Tyloo, but I'm now looking at question mark as well. On the south side, they're about to be rotating here just underneath Forest, who's been in a little bit of a fight there with one of the splits solos actually from Cerberus.
Once we start seeing the sprinklers, you know that the players are not going to be happy.
I hate playing around
this is a lot of what we're going to be looking at moving forward. Forest, question mark, all on top of each other like we were talking about. FaZe also wanted to get a piece of this one, taking some shots into Forest. Let's also not forget about Cerberus Tycon, that is very, very close to this.
Yeah, Tycon is that second member there, split far on the south. They have a pretty much a 1-1-1-1 they had before losing a member there of Cerberus. Is Master now trying to rotate, just consolidate back over towards Scappy. There's no real reason for Forest to fight right now. They have a little bit of a position in the south. They can take their time in this compound and really decide whether or not they want to push to the north and take out Genji, or maybe start to look for Cerberus's Tycon. But the biggest issue is they actually need to start worrying about the team coming in behind them, which is going to be question mark.
This is a very defendable compound as long as they don't relent that hillside just to the south, and that is exactly where Aduzi is moving. He's kind of bouncing from sprinkler to sprinkler over there. T5, they're grouped up in... they've managed to make it in the circle. They do have Falcons that are going to be in front of them. I also want to give an update. Remember, we did see it was T5 that was going after Na'Vi earlier. Mel is in a good spot. Not easy to defend as a solo, but, you know, take your shots, make some noise, be scary.
He's alive.
Yeah, he's alive. Could be worse.
I'm also looking at 17 actually have taken over that hilltop plateau area where they have a pretty strong amount of control, to say the least. They still do have to contend with Twisted, though, as Twisted's mind does decide to push up that hill. This is actually really good for both of those teams, as well as Sonics, who have be hunkered down a little bit.
Twisted Minds just do such a great job of getting so much control, but FaZe looks like they have an idea on where question mark's going to be at. That nade's going to go on the opposite side of the hay bales. Not quite connect just yet. Follow throughs on shots, though. It's going to be Gustav and going to be able to find it. Correxy's nade does connect onto a second one, and now question mark's going to have to be dealing with Vex up close and personal. Lots of damage exchanged between the two of them. Vex is going to go down. Phil first is going to hit the shots into that, but now just him best of luck, kind of isolated away from everything. Gustav also with just a directed beat on him.
Yeah, they need to finish this fight quite early for either one of these teams, as they're going to have to rotate in between many more difficult positions that teams holding. But Shen now going right to the position that Sonics are in. He's fortunate, though. Sonics cannot crest over that hill because they are going to get shot by pretty much everyone else in the circle if they crest.
They wanted to stop what was going on with Shin, but I believe it was Falcons that were taking some shots from the tail end of him. Let's see what we can have happen over here, as it is going to be a lot of high ground favor for 17 Gaming. You can see it's just kind of them on top of this hill, a drop down into a whole bunch of ditches and nothing else.
Fortunately for Sonics, they really have quite a bit of cover from most other areas. The south is probably going to be their biggest threat, but even Shrimsy is kind of watching that now as Falcons are really starting to find some kills here from some of these rotations, especially because they're holding that southeast side. So they're going to be able to dictate quite a bit more, at least on their edge of the circle here. As we also see Genji starting to make a move onto the hilltop as their compound is no longer in.
Falcons, they've been kind of gatekeeping out over here for quite a while. FaZe still has to contend with what's going on with Cerberus just down to the south, but Falcons got some pretty good sight lines over this. They don't necessarily see down into the dips themselves, but Tycon in his positioning is something I'm really, really curious about. We do have the blue zone that's coming in. FaZe is going to have to move. They know this, but Bestlock's still over here. We still have Hush into this position. Correxy, everything's just been kind of held back because what are you really going to be able to do from here, right? There's so many solos that are just kind of stalling out your movement, and FaZe realizing that this is, okay, we've got to go. We've got to try to make something happen. They're going to be running into Falcon sight lines. Tycon is going to see this one. A couple of bullets, and yep, there goes FaZe. It's just, that was kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of rotation.
Yeah, they were just looking for as many points as they could, especially after the shift. They knew they had to salvage this game in some ways. Question mark just down to 1. We'll at least outlive FaZe and get closer to getting some placement points, but Forest now in a lot of trouble as 17 has realized that their north is getting a little busy as they'll throw multiple blue zone grenades. And is that going to knock Muto? No, he barely gets the first save off.
That was so well timed on those meds. It is very, very difficult. Gen G now trying to make their cross. They are getting shot at by Twisted Minds, who's got control of the south. I mean, that's kind of what we're looking at, right? 17 is trying to make sure that they get control of the north with this fight that's going on with Forest being so close range. Twisted Minds and Falcons to the south. 4 Angry Men to the northeast, and Gen G, like, look at the cover that they've got. It's just abundant, right?
Yeah, they have a lot of cover here to work with. But now that circle doesn't really help them all that much, does it? Sonics will now be the new southern edge, so they'll be able to hold this, especially the position will be even stronger once the circle closes, because then they don't even really have to worry about their south and they can start utilizing their bowl. Meanwhile, though, Twisted Minds, they're going to have to contest with 17 at some point here.
And this is just the hillside battle that's just going to happen, right? We're now looking at a very field-centric ending, specifically due to the fact that there's a field in the center of the entirety of the thing,
that
right?
field sucks to play.
It does, because that high ground hill that 17 is holding down is still just going to have vision right down into. Hay bales just aren't even a reprieve there.
Even if it had massive hay bales, there's really just no cover there, even if that hill was out. So there are a little bit of kind of dips, I guess, but yeah, 17 will have full vision on that, as well as Sonics. Once they're able to close out the south, they'll be able to see that as well. And so Forest, as a duo, or I believe 3 members up, will be able to play a little bit of that north side. But I'm also looking at Danwa to start to spread out and take control once this one starts to close as well.
And here is that fieldish area that we're looking at. You can see that it's not Jiawu can't really look down just quite yet due to the fact that wide angles could still cause a problem for him. But a lot of solo duo scrapping that's going to go over here, as this has just been a send it with a dream and maybe you can manage to make it into the zone kind of situation for a couple of these squads. Gen G, though, also making a directed send right up on top of Sonics, realizing that that's the only dip that's going to be available inside of this exchange right now. As looks like we are finally going to see Tyloo get eliminated.
Yeah, so a couple members there will survive. Shrimsy now dancing around this shack and all the exploding vehicles, but the cover is there from Twisted to help them out as Gen G will fall and Spyro will be the benefactor there, taking all those points.
It's Twisted Minds being like, you live for now, Sonics. We'll let you deal with us in just one moment. We want to pick up the kill points for ourselves.
Yeah, very smart, as they're now starting to pull up ahead of the Sonics, but look at this Tiggleton now realizing this, trying to anchor himself towards the position of Twisted Minds to fight back if they do start to pour over their bowl.
Oh, poor Mel. You survived for so long, but it's starting to get a little nerve-wracking for you. He was 4 Angry Men. Going to try to go.
I forgot about Mel, man.
Oh, that was a great throw on that Molotov. Just broke right on top of him. He is going to retreat back up that, so he should be able to get his meds into a decent enough situation. But, I mean, this is Mel's life right now. You can't even do anything about how you're being bullied, right? It's just wedgie after wedgie in this compound.
And I think I saw like 4 grenades on one of the members there. 4 a.m., so that's that does not bode well for our friend Melman, as he's stuck in that one-story shack. And you also have Falcons. You see Falcons there on the other side just licking their lips like, we know you're in here. We want this point.
When you step out of there, next time that Molotov lands, we are so going to get you, Melman, just trying to find. He actually found a way to sneak out the moment that was going on. He's making a break for it.
I can't believe he's still alive at this point, and even managing to make it out of that little one-story shack. So he's going to go up as the circle will center up on no man's land. That is a open field in the center of this one.
And some of that hillside is still going to be playable, not necessarily come from. Oh,
good night, sweet prince.
I mean,
your best.
Yeah, you just got a bit cooked. It's the best that you could do out of it. And he knew he had 2 squads around him, and he managed to try to get away from them best that he could.
Yeah, he's running forever.
Looking out, we can see the 4 Angry Men now starting to set their eyes down into Falcons. Well, it's going to be Twisted Minds finally going, all right, it's time to deal with the problem up on the hillside. They're lined up into 17 Gaming, but they're so close. These nades are going to be massive.
Yeah, they knew they couldn't go into the position that Sonics held as they're going to be naded from there, but also they knew that 17 was going to be on this top side. And so I like that 17 has stayed. They waited this long because they knew they could get some more points before going up to the top of the hill, where pretty much all they have to contend with is Forest, who have not even made their move yet.
Twisted Minds. I mean, everybody is just having to deal with the problem that is 17 Gaming. Twisted Minds tried to distract him for a second. Forrest tried to exploit that opportunity, but can't really do it. It's just a straight-up firing line, just north-south coming out from 17 Gaming, waiting to see if anybody wants to crutch this up. And the reason why is, look, this is a fortified hillside that they just get to kind of look down on all the peasants below them and do the damage as they do so well.
Yeah, and they're also, again, pinching them with the help of Sonics, who are in the circle on the south side, now utilizing that bowl, as we talked about earlier, closing and giving them no one to contest with from their back. And now we see 4AM starting to take the push here to Danawa. This is going to be a fight for the north, and this is going to be a very important one to see who's going to take the majority control of this game.
The last few buildings inside the compound are going to be owned by Danawa. 4 Angry Men, though, realizing the Falcons are coming up back behind them. They don't want to overcommit any one direction just yet. And 17 Gaming realizing that they want to deal with what's going on with Forest. Forest trying to move more aggressively into this line. They don't have much options. Blue zone coming in back behind them. They are hunkered down. They're hoping that maybe some reinforcements are going to come, and that reinforcement is going to come, as it is going to be Twisted Minds trying to make their way up this hillside. The longer that Forest lives means the fact that it is going to be way, way worse for 17 Gaming. Finally, and not going to be coming out. It's going to be Scappy going down. How much closer can we see Twisted Minds? They had to step away. Sonic started taking shots in the back of them, and they had to move. 17 Gaming now gets to control this.
They couldn't, and now 17, as you said, are able to take complete control here as they're just decimating Forest. But it's going to be the team on the other side of this. 4AM now embroiled in a fight with Falcons, as Danawa now has all the space in the world to work with. 17 now cornered.
Got to be careful. They stun Munto up. Danawa realizing the fact that the threat is going to be close, and 4 Angry Men.
Oh, no way!
Oh, man! That is coming at the worst time for 4 Angry Men. Here comes the push from the double up of Danawa. Falcons also spotted that, trying to see if they can get something, but it's going to come way too late as Danawa just takes all of it.
That was a disgusting panzer from Loki as he finds 2 members there, and then the easy wipe as he pours over and takes care of 4AM. But now it's down to Cerberus in the field. You have Falcons on the east. Danawa still control the north, but 17 is really the team that has to move the most.
Finally, the circles moving away from that hillside means that everybody that's just been having to cower down in the low ground gets a capability to fight back against the Goliaths and 17 that have been up on the top. Now, how is 17 going to have to try to make a move through this? They've got Cerberus down low. They've got Danawa that's going to be in front of them. Falcons using this to try to reset more into the east. Really, Falcons, Sonics just waiting for their moment to move into the circle, but 17 Gaming
Sonics has to push
2
Falcons.
squads in front of them.
Yeah, they have to push Falcons here. I don't think there's much to play there on the south side. And Falcons, though, they do have quite a bit, at least on the east, and they're taking their time. You see the hilltop that they're on. A 17 making a desperate play here. This is pretty much all they can do, but they're getting shredded by Danawa. As 2 members will fall, 3 will fall. Shawu the last, and he's rotating into death. At least he makes it. Well, Panzerfaust.
It just goes down swinging. Danawa should have time to reset. Falcons can't really make the move in. Cerberus just doesn't even care about what's happening up on this hillside.
It's gonna
They're
buy them
moving the
time,
circle.
though.
Yeah. Oh gosh, 2 big Panzerfaust plays back to back. I love what we've got going on here. This isn't necessarily the safest place to be, though, Isaki, as you're going to find out with the hillside now opened up. Cerberus doesn't have too much longer to survive. Yeah, I mean, we're bounce underneath the car. Oh.
We thought for sure Himas was going down, but
yeah.
Maybe not, as now look at the Falcons on the east side. They are going to have to contest with Sonics.
Okay, Sonics got sightlined of what's going to be going on with Moss. He's in some trouble over here. Now also, Himas is going to have some issues in Danawa close range. They can't commit in. This is kind of low ground Sonics positioning versus the hillsides that Danawa is trying to cling into. H1's going to hit the shot onto Loki. And now Falcons just kind of caught in the middle, but really not a catalyst for that's hyper negative against them just quite yet until Mai makes this step up, goes for the spray out of it. Are we going to see Salute try to mirror on the opposing side? He's kind of caught up in a fight with Silson at the exact same moment. So now Falcons having to deal with just 2 different threats. Opposing side, Trap King though pops up, gets himself a double.
And that was massive. We saw Mime utilizing that new jammer pack to get the off angle, but it was traded right back from DraftKings as Smoke's now coming out. Mime with the opportunity to maybe get up Shrimzy. Stills is not close enough yet to capitalize on this and take down Sonics. And now Danawa has decided to push behind.
Just shifting, realizing the opportunity. They're just going to be making a massive play into this one. Stilson, though, trying his hardest. He does not want to go down without a fight. At least manages to get a knock. That means that Danawa knows they're going to be walking into a very weakened Sonics. Himas, though, just look at him. He's just chilling on the opposing side of the circle, just like, I dodged the aid, my life is good.
And Hwin has to be huge here for the Sonics to allow them any time to potentially recover. Shrimzy would love to get these reses. Hwin has to put damage on Danawa to just sway them from pushing over and pouring over this ridge and taking care of the Sonics. But Loki will find the knock and Sonics will fall.
Danawa now sweeps the top 9 kills. They've got their eyes set on that 10th. Himas, what are you going to be able to do? There is no cover to be had. We are in phase number 8. Is going to be just a massive issue, though. Danawa does have some hurdles to get back into his direction. Well, I say that until Anonix just jumps in a car and just sends it down into the middle and goes, nope, this is even mine too.
Yeah, Anonix will take that position now and start to look for shots on Himas, and this is going to buy the rest of members of Danawa some time to start to rotate in as well. But even still, another game that we see as Danawa takes this one, that Cerberus has made it into the top 5 endgame.
And Danawa, man, they're starting to get on a tear of their own. They're finding these kills. They're starting to get more in groove. We're starting to see some of the Anonix of old showing himself in some of these firefights.
Finally.
I mean, I'm loving this. It just feels like, I know that there's a lot of like regionals that come into this. There's a lot of talk about what's going on with this specific region versus that one. Right now, we're just enjoying some of the highest quality PUBG internationally that I have seen. It's just everybody is in the thick of this together.
Yeah, and everyone is really starting to step up. Again, I'll use the example I used with Bob Sanghead and GP, right? He was pretty much the only one, but we're starting to see the other members of that team now really start to step up and get these multi-kills. Hush being one that got 5 in the previous game.